Chapter 9. The galaxy spun in motion around them slowly. Planets, solar systems, fiery suns, comets, and moons. It was like watching life move around her in set movements. Cold, calculating, and yet endlessly beautiful. It made Sam feel tiny and finite, as though she were little more than a speck in the endless motion of the cosmos. For more than the second time that day, the air was knocked out of her. Somehow, this reminded her of Optimus. Larger than life, powerful, graceful, and endlessly elegant. Commanding respect and attention without demanding it. Gently requesting and receiving without having to struggle. It was so very different from her world. There was a painful ache of longing in her chest. Beside her, Sunstreaker gave a slow, focused movement with his hand, fingertips tracing a bright blue light behind them. A beautiful tracer. The view around them appeared to come closer, seeming to float right off of the wall it appeared to be projected onto. It all turned sharply one way, then spun away, throwing them into the darkness with speckled stars in the distance, as if he had hurtled them through space with a mere flick of his wrist. That was exactly what he had done. Then, slowly, a large planet came into view, taking up all the available space. It floated before them almost majestically. But it wasn't like Earth or the other organic planets that had already come across the wall. Instead, it was nothing but stretching, layered metal, with beautiful, piercing blue-white light pouring from deep within its core that spilled out across the surface. Cybertron, our home. What it used to look like. Sunstreaker murmured awkwardly. I wasn't online when it looked like this. I like coming up here and looking at it. It, gives me hope. Pain unlike any other filled Sam's chest, and she choked on the desire to cry despite having no tears. It hurt, and she didn't know why. Now it's like this. He twisted his finger around, making a small circle in the air in front of him. The world changed, shifting rapidly like time was speeding by it. The 13 moons circling it spun slower and slower, their little lights dulling dramatically over their matching mechanical bodies. Cybertron looked mangled, to say the least. Why? Why are you showing me this? Sam's hands clenched together over her chest. I come here a lot. To think. Sunstreaker abruptly turned fidgety, as though he didn't know quite what to do with himself. A feeling of gratefulness struck Sam. He had shared something so intimate with her, so willingly. After only knowing her for a handful of hours. Thank you. You're welcome to come here whenever you feel like it. Sunstreaker gave a little shrug, as if to say, it's no big deal. But it was a big deal. It was very much a big deal. Sam gave him a wide smile and a little nod. They stood there a while longer, just taking in the beauty at hand, before Sunstreaker asked if she wanted to leave. A nod later, and they were making their way out of the room and down the stairs. As they got to the bottom, Sideswipe came bolting out of the rec room down the hall, yelling about being ditched. Sam couldn't help a small laugh. Spotting them down the hall's length, Sideswipe raced at them, yelling at Sunstreaker for leaving him by himself. You're a big mech. I thought you could handle it. Sunstreaker raised his eyebrows, and Sam fought harder not to laugh anymore. Poor Sideswipe already seemed so dramatically distressed. After a few minutes of them arguing in the hallway, Sideswipe did an abrupt 180, from being upset and distressed to a more chipper, excited outlook. He broke off, almost mid-sentence, and grabbed Sunstreaker's shoulders. Sonny, I just had the most amazing idea. The scream seemed even louder in the otherwise empty and silent hall. Don't call me that! Scowling, Sunstreaker tried to get his twins' hands off of him to no avail. Finally, he relented, grumbling. It was enough of an acceptance for Sides. We should give her a paint job! Sam and Sunstreaker both startled at his suggestion and exchanged a small look between them. All right. Sam gave a small nod, remembering how dusty, dirty, and worn out she had felt next to Optimus Prime. A tiny part of her wondered if she could wow him the next time she saw him. Then she shook that thought away hard. He didn't have time for her. He was busy fighting a war. But a paint job would probably still help her feel like she fit in a little more. Maybe it would even help her to like her new body more. It was like someone had promised Sideswipe a puppy, a pony, and all the video games in the world all at once. One moment they were all standing in the hallway bickering or listening to said bickering, and the next thing Sam knew, they were suddenly running down the length of the hall. "Sides, chill!" Yelping, Sunstreaker struggled against his twins' grip, and Sam gasped for breath painfully, although she didn't need any. Her system struggled against the sudden pressure on them. Thankfully, Sideswipe listened to his twin and slowed down. "Why? What's the holdup?" He looked back at Sunstreaker with annoyance. "She's injured, you dolt brain! Or did you forget that we got her from Ratchet?" Sunstreaker sneered, obviously frustrated with Sideswipe. "Oh, right, sorry." Sheepishly, Sideswipe released them both from his ironclad hold. "Now, we're going to walk to our room. Got it, Glitchhead?" Sunstreaker snapped and assumed a more commanding tone. Sideswipe gave a little pouting nod, mumbling something under his breath. Taking a moment to rest, Sam felt herself swell with more than a little gratitude. She didn't think she could have gotten Sideswipe's attention on her own. Not with how her body was at the moment. She was far too weak to be fighting off anyone, even if it was a child. From thereafter, they walked together slowly. Sideswipe and Sunstreaker discussed paint types in front of her as they moved. It wasn't like colors, but rather materials. Materials Sam didn't recognize the names of or know what they were good for. But if the two youths knew about them well, then she supposed she would leave it to them, and trust them to pick a good one for her to have. Sam wondered what color they would pick out for her after they had finally settled on a material type. Would it feel different? Would she like it? Nervous. She was nervous. Would it hurt? Her stomach rolled. Did she even have a stomach anymore? The sensation was similar. Sam swallowed hard. It didn't exactly feel like a swallow, but it was still there. That was enough for now. She rubbed her hands together anxiously as they came up to a sliding door amid a hall full of sliding doors. This was it. Deep breath, Sam. "Welcome to our humble home," Sideswipe chirped, throwing the door open and racing in. "Where we'll make your dreams come true." "Would you shut up?" Sunstreaker groaned, trailing in after his twin with Sam in tow. She took a nervous glance around the room, small steps leading her in after them. It was dark, but only for a moment. As if their presence had initiated some kind of command, the light was turned on in the room, illuminating everything that had been hidden beforehand. Cans of paint in various colors and amounts were stacked along the walls. There were metallic canvases laid up against the cans with sheets draped over them masking their contents. This was their passion. "Here, sit here." Sideswipe dragged a slightly damaged large chair around their bed and set it out in the center of the floor. Stepping around the door, Sam carefully settled into the chair that had been brought out for her. It wasn't as comfortable as the rec room chair, but it wasn't exactly uncomfortable either. "So we've decided on this kind of paint. It's shimmery and offers good liquid protection. It's also slightly resistant to physical attacks, so it won't chip." Sunstreaker proudly showed off an interesting-looking can of paint. "Okay," Sam agreed, a little lost as to what he meant exactly. That was okay, though. Their excitement, enthusiasm, and passion were contagious, and more than made up for that. Regardless, it seemed like she was going to have a good time. "So now we get to pick a color. Looks like you were some shade of blue or a blue-green before." Sideswipe mused, poking at her arm. "Are you wanting to keep that kind of color?" "Oh, well, maybe blue and..." She thought for a moment. "White?" "We could work with that," Sunstreaker nodded. From there, it was all a blur. They broke out the paint, various brushes, and similar tools, and some masking tape-like stuff. The twins moved in such perfect tandem that it was difficult to keep up with them. Knowing where they were at all times became impossible. More than once, one of them would just abruptly appear over her shoulder or around her side, and Sam would have to resist jumping in surprise. They moved quickly and efficiently, almost like they had been doing this for decades. Maybe they had. Who knew how robots aged? Aging robots. That seemed like a weird thought in general. Alright, almost done. Now just to add the finishing touches. Sideswipe's cheery tone broke Sam from her thoughts. How long had she been sitting there, letting them work on her? It was slightly disconcerting, the lack of time awareness. They flitted around her, applying a clear coat of paint to the shiny colors they had already applied. It was beautiful. A vibrant shade of blue that wasn't too bright or too dark. Lighter than Optimus's blue, it reminded her of the ocean, almost. Then the white that accented it was pure like snow, further adding to the pristine image. Done. Come see. Sunstreaker stepped away from her and pulled a sheet off of a floor-length mirror to the side. Sam had assumed it was another canvas. She was incorrect. Standing up slowly, she approached the mirror with trepidation. This would be the first time seeing her new body fully. Fear chilled through her veins. Actually, did she even have veins anymore? Sam shook that line of thinking off, took a deep breath, and stepped in front of the glass. Everything fell away and was replaced with awe. This new body was so pretty. Slim, sleek in design, with everything in good proportion. A decent chassis, and a beautiful sweeping set of curves, giving her a nice set of hips. The wings that adorned her back swept up elegantly, giving the idea of pixie wings. Her face was strange, but still seemed like her own, with many of the same features. High cheekbones, firm jawline, everything. Her ears had been replaced with sweeping, elegant metal fin-looking pieces, but otherwise, everything was her own. In a way, she almost liked how this body looked better. Except, to some extent, it still wasn't her. Sam tried not to think about that. Then there was the paint. It pulled her looks out beautifully, accenting every part of her in the best way possible. Sam flushed, absolutely pleased with their work, and it showed in the alien face staring back at her. Soft blue dusted over her high cheeks. So, she could blush, it just wasn't red anymore. She could work with that. It was something. Oh, slag! Sam turned as Sideswipe cursed. Prima's moon is gonna set soon. Ratchet's gonna offline us. Call him and let's get moving then. Sunstreaker shrugged. We were giving Sam a makeover. He'll get over it. You say that now. Sideswipe grumbled. Sam couldn't help a small laugh at the two, and it made Sideswipe grin, flipping his expression around. All in all, Sam felt pretty good about how the day had gone. Sideswipe and Sunstreaker hadn't been as bad as she had thought initially, and they had even gone out of their way to make her feel better. Which, surprisingly, worked. She felt much more confident in this body now. Then there was Ratchet, who scolded the twins heavily for having Sam back so late. She thought that might make them upset with her honestly, but they had remained unfazed, even waving and grinning at her cheerfully before leaving, completely unbothered. It was relieving, to say the least. Now came the hard part. Sam took a deep breath and tried not to fiddle with her hands too much out of nervousness. Now she had to talk to Ratchet. Because it seemed that if she could trust anyone on base with her secret, it was him. Optimus too, maybe. She just got the sense that the kind leader would never do anything to harm her. Not on purpose. Ratchet, however, was going to be first. Something told Sam he would protect her from others and keep them from turning her into some kind of science experiment. Hey, Ratchet, can I talk to you about something?